What's going on, pool chasers, and welcome to episode 111. So, I've got a little confession to make. I can be a little bit impatient when it comes to waiting on photos from a professional photographer. You put all this time into coordinating the photo shoot, and you're waiting for the perfect weather conditions, and you've kept the team under control long enough to get some great shots, and I just want to see the photos. So we bug the photographer, sending text messages and emails and calling. And hey, can I get those photos? I'll take them in raw. Whatever you got, can you just send them to me? But guess what? The day finally comes where you get your photos and you don't have a set plan for what you're going to do with them. You might sprinkle a few on Instagram or Facebook and hopefully your website, but there isn't a process or plan. And they just sit in Dropbox and get dusty. The truth is, there are so many places to share your photos, but each platform is unique in its own way. We need to figure out a way to share these photos efficiently and effectively.
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
So Greg, today we want to talk about, professional photos and how to use them on these different platforms. And one thing we've always talked about and, we didn't always do well, but we figured out was how to organize these photo shoots, how to organize these photos and use them to the best of our ability because, we spent a lot of time prepping for these photo shoots. We have, gone through several of them. A few of them have been good, a few of them bad, and we've learned a lot, but organization of them is pretty key, and utilizing them on each different platform is different. So you got, all these major platforms you're supposed to use them on, like your website, Google My Business, Houzz, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Nextdoor, Yelp, magazines, and of course, emails. So, right there is a huge list, So
what would you... It's not easy.
No, for sure. So, what would you recommend starting, with this?
Yeah, so I'll first go into this where we'll use Brothers Pool Service, where once we figured out a good system for how we were going to roll all this out, we would look at the different platforms we were on, which was our website, Yelp, Google My Business, Instagram, Facebook, all these different things, and wanted to make sure that if we were doing a team photo or a new team photo, that was going to go on that portion of our website. So we had a checklist of pretty much a shot list of what we were going to get. So we know that on the website, we'll just start with the website, is you have the homepage, which most websites, the images, especially if you're a pool builder, they're at width. So they're going to be longer images. So if you're shooting a photo of a swimming pool all by itself, that's going to be a perfect place to put that photo. And you could do a slider as well, where you might do a slider of multiple swimming pools that you build. But there's also different places on your site that you're going to use these images. And I think it's important to understand what you want on your website so that when you go do the photo shoot, you know exactly what you're going to get. Because if you blog regularly or you want to get into blogging, those are different types of photos. Those might be more like you would create a thumbnail where if you were explaining the process that went into building this pool, you would want a nice kind of social sharing thumbnail that you would put on all the social channels. So when you actually highlight that URL and you put it on, say, Twitter or Facebook or something like that, the image that's automatically going to pop up so that people can just click that photo and go right to your website, to your blog, you want to make sure that that photo is on point. There's a lot of progressive companies out there that have some really rad, they put a lot of time into just that thumbnail artwork. And I think that, if you go into it knowing what is on your website, it's going to make that so much easier. So back to the team, we did have a team portion on our website. So at width, a longer image of your team, maybe by a pool, and then underneath it, say you have a list of the different team members that are on the team, you would have more of a kind of a square image. So that would be your headshot. We had 5 guys, 10 guys. Make sure that you get an updated headshot of every single one of them, maybe let them know to get a haircut, wear polo or a shirt that doesn't have grease all over it or whatever else.
Chlorine stains.
Exactly. Like look the part. So just bringing that to light, that depending on how you use your website, making note of all the different images for one photo shoot that you want to do. And that would be, say, if you're a pool builder, pool builders name their pools for the most part, or however you go about it. I would have that and say Dropbox, and it would be the name of that pool. And once you open it, it might be different sections where it would be website, or it would be Houzz, or it would be Pinterest, or it would be Instagram, Facebook, any one of those, so that maybe if you're working with a photographer, it's a lot easier to communicate where those go. I think some photographers are going to hate me actually for saying that. Like, no, dude. My gosh, I'm not doing that. I totally understand that. That could be a pain in the butt, but
even then, you could take the photos that they put in one single Dropbox folder, and you could organize them yourself in that. As long as you communicate what sizes you want and which shots you want, you can organize it yourself too.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could.
But it would be nice if they did it for you.
Yeah. So the website is probably going to be the most important place to host your images. And just to kind of touch on that, it is important that either the photographer compresses those photos or you can do it. But most of the time, a professional is going to send over very large file sizes. And that's good because you might want to blow the image up and put it on the side of a billboard or a semi truck or something super crazy. So you want like that high resolution, you want that big file image. But when putting it on a website, you want to make sure that you do make that file size smaller so that you have quicker loading times. Because when your website doesn't load fast, you get dinged by Google for it. So definitely want to make sure that you compress those photos before adding it.
So what do you recommend doing that?
So there's a number of different kind of softwares out there, but you can go to jpeg.io and you can compress your images there. And I think the other thing that's just as important is naming your photos. So usually there's a spot depending on what type of website you have. We use Squarespace, but done it on WordPress and other places too. They're called alt tags, but you pretty much want to name the photo, and you're doing Google a favor by letting Google know what this is a picture of. So if it's a picture of a glass tile, you would maybe want to put oceanside glass tile to be specific, so that anytime anybody Googles that, I'm not saying it's going to go right to the top right away, but a lot of people use the images feature on Google. So you want to make sure that you are properly tagging those images. Because if somebody sees it and they're like, oh, wow, that's a rad picture or whatever it may be, for the most part, they might click on it, and you want to get that traffic to your site. And if you don't do that, it kind of will just go into the abyss.
Right, for sure. So, I mean, you brought up Google, right? So Google My Business is another one on the list here. So how is that different from your website?
So the way that that's different is they actually recommend to not always use professional photos, but you still want to have some, because I still see that working very well. But this is a place where you can have a banner, and that's a perfect place. If you've got maybe your favorite project, your pool, your team, whatever it may be, that's what you would want to put on your banner. And you have the capabilities of putting kind of your team at work, your services, all these different things. And you could just kind of be one and done. Maybe it's something you might update every year or whatever it may be, but making sure that you're going down the line of questions that Google's asking you. So if they're saying team photos, get photos of your team emptying baskets, get the team photo, get them doing sand filter changes, get them doing filter cleans, all the things that you're doing, show them the team at work. And then services, obviously, you're going to list your services, and you can have some different photos there as well. But the good thing about Google is it's kind of Google My Business acts as a kind of like a social platform, because you can post on it as well. Where you can post, photo updates, offers, products, events, different things like that. And I think that's really cool because say, somebody's running a sale on heaters and you're installing a heater, you can kind of put a nice edited image on there and put a link that goes back to your website or a blog article where people can learn more and contact you and all those different things. And the other cool thing is you can actually add interior and exterior photos. So if you actually have a warehouse or you have a business, you can get all kinds of cool shots. We didn't do this, but I kind of wish we did because I felt like we were really organized and that would have been a good way to show off our organization skills. So for anybody that's listening and you've got a really well organized shop, might be a good thing to actually put it on there. Or seen a lot of builders that actually have kind of a display room or a showroom where they might have furniture, they've got floats or different automation sets, or maybe there's just a bunch of different tiles and interior finishes and stuff like that people can actually come to your office and check all that stuff out. Probably be a good idea to have that stuff in those places, because if you look at the analytics, which the insights are phenomenal with Google, once you get that stuff on there, you'll see that people are actually viewing this stuff. Right. And I think that is very kind of inspiring to want to keep adding more photos to it. So I think that's a big one. You're planning a photo shoot. That is one that I would put is Google My Business. And that one doesn't have as many weird dimensions, but maybe there's something special and unique. If you just got done doing something specific at a pool or a house and you want to make an offer out of it, or you want to list something as a product, maybe you have a store, that could be a great place to kind of host all that information.
Yeah, definitely. And, speaking of builders, you were talking about them a little bit earlier. I think one of the platforms that's utilized by them most is Houzz. So what is different on Houzz that you should be aware of than the other two we've discussed?
Yeah, Houzz is awesome. Houzz is actually probably one of my favorites. And I'm not a builder, so I don't have I don't have that like pro access, but I really enjoy looking at all the different photos that builders put on there. And you can build idea books I think that's what a lot of homeowners do, is because it's like Pinterest. It's an inspiration platform where a lot of homeowners, people that, want to build a pool or a backyard of their dreams or a home of their dreams, they're going on there and they're building these idea books where they like this tile, they like this finish, they like these plants, they like this fence, they like this chair, they like all these different things. So it's really cool if somebody's actually using that way, because then once they get totally inspired, and maybe a lot of that inspiration isn't from people in their exact area, they're going to go into looking for professionals in their area.
Right.
And once they do that, I can only imagine that would help a builder so much that they're sending you an idea book of exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, yeah, this is we can pretty much do this entire thing.
Yeah,
but
I think some people get annoyed with that because they lose their creativity. But I personally would love it if I was a builder, because it would cut off a lot of that conversation of trying to figure out what they like. You just get to the point of like, all right, you like all these things. Let me incorporate all that, and here's a piece of what you like. And you can still be creative with it, but you can probably get a better chance of them liking the pool by taking that into consideration.
And Houzz is similar to other platforms where you've got a banner, which you want to make sure that on your banner image that it's kind of at width photo, that you're going to want sort of this wide shot of something that represents you and your company. It could be your favorite pool, or it could just kind of be this sort of, aesthetic of your brand that you want to sit there kind of forever for people to see. And the other thing is the profile picture. And I don't feel like it says it on Houzz unless I missed it. But what I've heard on podcasts and other sources is that they actually like it better when you put a profile picture of an actual person. And you start to notice that when you're looking at Houzz profiles, especially in some very competitive markets like Los Angeles, maybe here, other places, that all the ones that are coming to the top are usually, all of them have like a headshot of like somebody. Even if it's just a selfie, they're usually on that first page. So definitely want to do that. Get a good headshot. That's good for anybody because that can go anywhere. And the other thing is you can build projects, and one project is pretty much one project build. So it might be one pool backyard build, all these different things. And what I really like about Houzz is the capability of tagging individual images. And I don't see as many people doing it for pools anyway. But if I were coordinating with a professional photographer and I had, patio furniture that I put in, maybe some in-pool ledge lounger furniture, or there was glass tile, or maybe you've got a custom fire feature or water feature or something like that. Like you can actually just take more of a close-up of those photos, like a real good close-up of that glass tile, and you can actually tag it. And the cool thing is it doesn't show the tag, so you can kind of go crazy with it. And if it's oceanside, it can be oceanside glass and tile, and then glass tile. It's pretty much working like a tag,
right?
But you pretty much just work that thing to death. You know what I mean? So it's like every little thing, interior, just name the colors, the manufacturer, all those different things, so that when people are actually searching Houzz as a whole, using it like a search engine, maybe they are being more specific because somebody told them that, oh, this is like, you really want to get ledge lounger furniture. It's the best. And maybe they type it in, and maybe with time you'll go to the front and people will be looking at your images. And that's always just good, getting more traffic, because even if they don't buy it necessarily or use you as a professional, that traffic to your page is still going to help as views.
Right.
And as time goes on, you can actually kind of sell those things. So if you kind of work out these relationships, I don't know as much about that side of it, but you can kind of price and tag these images that are on there and sell them.
Yeah. I think that's cool. If you don't know much about the pool either, you can, people are searching stuff like blue glass tile or, Caribbean glass tile. And it's like, if you've tagged those correctly, that stuff will start to pop up, so you can kind of be upfront with those things and you take more specific photos like that.
Yeah. And I think it makes things so much easier, because if you've got a bunch of projects and you've actually done that with all of them, people that are actually going to hire you for your services can go through sort of that archive of projects, and maybe they can start building their idea books from the things that you've actually posted. So they're just kind of like, I really like this furniture set. I really like this tile. I like this finish. Ooh, I love these plants. Oh, you've even got these Sonos speakers out here. Like, I would just go crazy with it. And that just makes it so much easier, because it's like, I've purchased that. So
exactly,
I've got no issue doing it again.
Yeah, it's a really cool platform, man. It's definitely where the professional photos are used more than anywhere else, I think.
Yeah, by far. That is like the hub, because it's not like Instagram, where Instagram is made for photos, but it doesn't matter as much like the sizing of the photos. It's not on like this grid where that is like a thing. You're not looking at it that way, where you just, if you've got 20 photos to put for one project, like just get them all on there. That's the important thing, and naming them and tagging them and doing everything that you're supposed to on there. But Houzz is it's definitely a great platform to host professional photos. I would only put professional photos on there, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's a high end like search profile, right? I mean, that's what it is. So it's the best way to utilize it.
Yeah. And I always wonder why people don't brand as much, because if it were me, I would brand towels or different things like that. Like maybe you threw in a towel rack, a real nice towel rack or something like that, and just kind of draped over a towel and it said Pool Chasers on it or something like that. Or even if it's just like a float or an inflatable ball or something like that, with making it like nice, not some, cheap ass inflatable,
right.
Stuff. Don't do it on a bunch of noodles in the pool. But that's definitely a great place for all of those.
Yeah.
Here at Pool Chasers, we're all about sharing information so that you can become even more knowledgeable pool professionals. The folks at Pentair get that. And to show their appreciation, we invite you to enroll in the Pentair Partners Incentive Program. This flexible and simple program rewards you for your loyalty, starting with your very first sale of Pentair equipment or systems. Not only that, But being a partner gives you immediate and exclusive access to programs and training events, all which are developed to help drive even more business to your door. So to start earning rewards, visit pentairpartners.com or click the link in the write-up below.
Is Pinterest similar to that then?
Yeah, so Pinterest is definitely made for inspiration, but I think this is a little bit undervalued because if you go on Pinterest and you type in swimming pool, there's a ton of like older stuff in that archive. And this is probably the most unique, I think anyway, of all the social media platforms because it doesn't have some of the same traditional ways of using it, and especially the way that it looks. Most of the photos that you see on there are vertical. So I think you want to take that into consideration if you want to use Pinterest, which I would definitely look into. I'm not going to be able to explain every little thing about Pinterest because it is a lot. But the good thing about Pinterest is if you're going to do a photo shoot and there's certain places where you can shoot vertical images, I would do that because you're going to put that on Pinterest and people are going to be like, oh, I like that. And they repin it, but you can actually put a link behind the image so that people click that image, it goes automatically to your website. And if you've got a profile set up that is dedicated maybe to that pool build or something like that, you get to show them everything that you've done there. Or maybe it goes to your Houzz page, wherever you want it to go. But most of the time, we're trying to get everything to link back to our website.
Right.
So that's what people are doing on there is they're pinning things. If you're a business owner on Pinterest, you're pinning things, you're creating boards, which is a way to actually organize your thoughts. So you can have like a section of, I think how we might have done is like one is like plumbing, other one can be like interior, one can be something else, but you can actually, build these actual boards. But yeah, I think Pinterest is a really cool one. And for anybody,
like a wish list when you're in your high school or a vision board.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great opportunity for pool service companies too, because, we've talked about this before that, we should have been selling every little thing to our clients, which is, goggles, maybe even some coffee table books or towels or whatever is out there in terms of technology. We've talked about the Solar Breeze and, you got robotic cleaners and all these different things because you can actually put videos on there as well. But it's a great place for you to kind of get that stuff out there. And maybe if you get a ton of traction, you could actually make a store of it where maybe you've got a store on your website or you've got an Amazon account or something. You want people to kind of get inspired by this really cool picture you took and kind of link them back to making a purchase.
Right.
But it is a inspirational sort of social media platform, but people are going there with the intent to buy, which is different than kind of like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, where it's not as passive. They're going there with like that intent. So it's like, if you go in there and you start looking up swimming pool, backyard ideas, and you're checking out, oh, I like that, and you're repinning it and you're doing all that, as a normal person, not somebody in the industry, you're doing that and you've searched that because you probably are planning on buying a pool or doing something along the lines of that, which on Instagram is a little bit different. You're kind of just browsing, which, Instagram is probably our personal favorite, but you're kind of just hopping on there to kind of scroll through and see what's up. And you might search a few things, but you're not doing it with that like intent to buy anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Check it out.
And I mean, Pinterest is huge, right? I mean, people use it for their weddings. They use it for other stuff. I mean, I know you got like some fact here that, it's used by so many people. I mean, that's pretty crazy. It says like 400 million monthly active users. Like, that's pretty insane.
Oh, yeah.
When you think of that, 400 million.
Totally insane.
Yeah.
So when it comes to professional photos and Pinterest, I think you really want to really think about, what vertical shots you can get out in the field when you have the professional photographer because just like some of these other social media platforms, it's extremely competitive. And just because somebody's put something up that's just like yours, because I will say, Ledge Lounger has a phenomenal Pinterest page and it gets tons of views. But just because they put, pictures of their chairs on there and they're amazing, that's the cool thing about swimming pools is that there's so many of them and they're usually all a little bit unique in their own way where they have a different view. And you never know what the day is like. Could be a little bit overcast. It could be a perfect blue sky. It could be in the evening. There's all these different things that can switch up sort of the mood. So I think that you could have a board that was like just sort of, night themed. It's like all these professional photos of shots that were taken at night at like a vertical.
Right.
So there's always a way to be creative. And I think having to kind of think more in vertical terms, you're definitely going to have to think a little bit more outside of the box.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
So let's jump into social media then. What's different with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, these social media platforms?
Yeah, so Facebook is really important because that also has a banner just like some of these other ones. And the cool thing about the banner on Facebook is it can be photos, it can be kind of a slider of different things, or it can be a video, which if you have a ton of very professional photos, you can turn that into a video where it's kind of like a video slideshow and just upload it that way. And those are pretty much at width. So you would want some wide shots. Could be different pools, it could be different services, your team, different pools that you've serviced, whatever it may be. But I think it's a good idea. You only have one chance to really make a good first impression. And for new people that are going to your Facebook page, you want to make sure that you're giving them a good first experience. And the first thing they're going to see is that banner. So making sure that that banner is on point, I think is good.
Is that the cover photo?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Cover photo.
I never heard it called banner. I mean, that makes sense. I'm assuming that's what it was, but
yeah, the cover photo. But I will say everyone's a little bit different, but I think a logo deserves its place on the profile picture.
Yeah.
Instead of, a selfie or something like that, because I think that's what you're doing with the cover photo is you're putting all those different images that might be of you and your team and the services that you provide, where you need to kind of put your logo somewhere. So that's probably a great place. And there's a lot of different things. If you do get all the photos back and you want to build like a really cool collage out of all these things, you can use Canva and different things like that, where you can pretty much just type in Facebook cover, and then there'll maybe be some templates of collages where you could just kind of drag and drop, these really nice images. That way you're not trying to figure out Photoshop, Illustrator.
Yeah, people have already done it for you. Just use what they've provided, especially if you aren't super skilled in it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you're a builder and you just completed a pool and you have all these high resolution photos, you would want to create an album. And whatever the name of that pool is, you would want to create an album for that pool so that you can kind of just put everything in there. And that way, when people are looking through your albums, everything is pretty organized. But I always like the way that it's laid out. And I think that's something to think about when you're putting it up there, is maybe that your favorite photo, and it's probably of the whole entire pool, whatever that best shot is, maybe having that one towards the front, because it's going to turn it into a little bit of a collage, and it's going to resize it the way that it's shown to people that are using, like after you get done posting it. So you want to be aware of, how that looks after you put it in there. But yeah, albums is a good feature. And also you can use a slideshow with a link. So if you want to direct people to your Houzz page or to your website or anything like that. So if you built a blog, or it was the process of a pool being built, where it went from, excavation and rebar and interior and all these different things, it went through that whole entire process. Maybe, on the slider, it's kind of like each one of those, but each one of them has a link going back to sort of a blog that you wrote about this whole entire process of this pool. So that could be another way of using it. The other thing we talked about a little bit earlier was when you're building a blog on your website and you're making sure that that social sharing image is on point, this is where you're going to use it, because once you copy that URL and you want to paste it into Facebook and share it, where that is a lot of things are being done on Facebook, a lot of blog sharing is going on. So you want to make sure that you have the best image that's on there. And hopefully we'll do an episode getting more into detail about blogs, but having a really nice image. And that's why it's so important when you're coordinating with the photographer, because if you know that you need sort of this area for text, because maybe it's the top 10 things that you didn't know about, I don't know, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you have enough room for that text. So if you're trying to get that pool in there and you're trying to get, something else, you want to make sure that when that photo is being taken, that you're leaving enough space to get that text in there so that that thumbnail can really pop when you share that blog. So those are, probably some of the most important things, especially listing your services. Obviously, you're going out and you got a pool service company and you're listing all the services, which is going to be insanely time consuming,
right?
Because it is a ton of stuff. But maybe you're alternating the different types of photos you get when you do a photo shoot. Because I think we were doing like 2 a year, something like that, like real professional ones, where maybe that would be a good time to do that, where it's like, we're going to get these photos out of the way, but we did heaters last time. Let's do pool fences this time. Let's make sure that we do automation this time. Let's make sure that we focus on this one thing,
right?
So that as time goes on, you're kind of collecting professional photos of these different services you do. Because obviously, like, you're not going to do everything in one photo shoot. Like,
right.
That could be hell.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, today we're going to do sand change. We're going to install some automation, some pumps, some filters. We're going to clean some filters.
Right.
We're going to do it all.
Can't do that.
It's like, yeah, I'm not going to look so good towards the end there.
But yeah, you're good, man. Those are all good suggestions for service companies, and using them, correctly in the different seasons is always helpful if you have those photos.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're talking about it, is because we're talking about it because it's not super difficult, but it's extremely time consuming, because a lot of this stuff we definitely don't do, but we know that it needs to be done. And that's why we're talking about it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that it's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And maybe this is just a really good reminder that, okay, I need to put some kind of system together where I have a strategy going out with the photographer. And I'm sure they would really like to get a shot list prior, a few weeks ahead of time, saying that I need all these different types of images. And maybe you don't have the exact sizing, but just letting them know that I'm trying to get them for all these social platforms, and you can put it on the website with the show, kind of the different sizing for these social platforms. But I think that would truly help when communicating with the photographer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of them aren't really shooting pools probably, or pool professional stuff that often. So I'm sure if you can communicate kind of what you want, it would definitely be helpful to them.
Yeah. And the other thing is, since Facebook owns Instagram,
right,
all the insights and different sharing capabilities are on both platforms. But the cool thing is the insights are incredible. So if you shared an album, or you shared a post of a pool or whatever it may be, and you can actually see all the different analytics of when people are on, when they liked it, just all the different traction that it's getting, that maybe you want to put a few ad dollars behind this post because it did really well, because that's what you want to do. If you've got, phenomenal looking photos and they're doing really well, like, that would be worth it to me to put some money behind it. And I think that is what a lot of really good kind of marketing companies do,
right,
is they kind of wait to see what kind of organic traction it gets. And it's like, okay, if it's getting organic traction, then it'll definitely be a hit when we actually put some ad dollars behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's time for PolarX's end of summer sale again. That means it's time for you to replenish your inventory and purchase those boosters. When we were running Brother, the PolarX sales were always one of our favorite times of the year. We got a discount on the product, but more importantly, we were setting up our pools for success while reducing chemical usage, which saved us a ton of time and money. Let me tell you more about the product. PoolRx eliminates and prevents all types of algae, reduces chlorine demand, and lasts up to 6 months. This is where the boosters come in handy. If you purchase units in the spring, you can add a booster to those out in the field, and they can last another 6 months. With PoolRx, there is no need for phosphate removers, clarifiers, or other algicides. While using PoolRx, you will see high-definition water clarity. I mean, these pools just really pop. Right now, you can get $15 off a 4-pack of blue units, $17.50 off a 4-pack of black units, and $7.50 off a 4-pack of boosters at your favorite distribution location. The sale ends September 30th, so get them while you can. If you want to find out more about the product and how we used PoolRx for our company, please check out episode 8 of the podcast, and you can also visit poolrx.com by clicking the link below.
So Instagram's a little bit different, right? I mean, it's like you said, one of our favorite platforms. How does it vary since Facebook owns it? I mean, they've done some things that have intertwined them, but how is it different?
Yeah, so I think even especially back to when we were at Brothers, we're always, I think I definitely got you in the habit of it, but it's like all the photos we were taking on our phone, like always make sure to swipe it to square.
Yeah.
Because the grid, like we talked about, you've got one chance to make a good first impression on people. And I think that when people go to your actual profile, it's like this sort of online resume, especially because there's so many people on Instagram and everything is so visual that if they're just going through the page, because that is what Instagram says people are doing, is when they go to a new page for the first time, they're actually kind of like scrolling, like, 1, 2, 3 kind of thumb swipes to kind of just get an idea of sort of the overall vibe, aesthetics. What are they sharing before they actually click on a post? So I think it's really important that obviously when we are shooting with our phones, like we are doing it in a square format. And I think the same, if it were me anyway, would apply when doing a professional photo shoot. And one thing I appreciate, recently did some really cool photos with Ethan Cooper, and he actually sent them over to me. One was like, really high resolution, and the other one was like smaller file sizes, but they're like in a square format for actually posting on Instagram.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool because not too many people do that, just kind of go photo crazy, which, it is what it is. If you don't give a photographer any direction, like,
yeah,
especially if they don't see too many swimming pools, like
you're going to shoot everything.
just going to, go crazy. But the thing is, you might not get everything. It might take 200 photos, but you might have paid for 10 and you might only get 10. But this way you've got a real strategy going into the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So on the topic of Instagram, I think that is important, and also vertical shots. So if you're trying to put a video of a pool you just built or something that you're talking about, say on IGTV or something like that, maybe a really nice vertical shot that might tell that story a little bit better, and you can kind of link in a way to watch the video. Or just maybe there's 5 different really good vertical shots that you can get where you can kind of show off your pool, and you say, if you want to see more, visit the link in bio where we have all the photos on our website, or you can go to our house, or wherever you want to direct them. But stories is huge and key because it's in numerical order of when things get shared. So, but there's other things that you can do as well. They actually have like layouts on there now. So even if they're not vertical shots, you can just kind of pick a layout where you can they're more kind of photos at width. You can kind of do 1, 2 different collages and things like that. I wonder how many people hit them up on that. It's like, dude, I've got no photos.
I'm sure.
Vertical. You need to fix this.
Yeah.
And I hate the box.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's just fuzzy around the square image.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to see that anymore.
Right.
I need to do something about that.
When you're saying vertical, just for people who may not know, what does that mean?
It's just like a tall photo.
Like, how are you holding your phone though? Like just straight up and down, like you would
straight
talking
up and
on
down. Yeah, like you're talking on it. Straight up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you were taking a picture of a pool, like, and you wanted to get the whole pool in it, like you could be pretty close up and turn it sideways and
Right.
get the full pool. But
Yep.
in order to get that vertical shot, you're going to have to kind of get creative depending on the shape of the pool, the size of the pool, whatever you're trying to get in it. You might have to, step back a few steps, and you might have to kind of get a side angle of it or something like that. And that's why you see a lot more photos vertical that have been shot on their phone, because that shot can sometimes obviously be a lot easier to just shoot on your phone, because
Sure.
that's the default photo.
Right.
Just photo time. Okay. Vertical, click. That's it. And no
Yeah.
fancy business.
Yeah. But I think the reason bringing Instagram up too is like we see it a lot with the professional photos that they don't communicate with a photographer maybe, and they don't get those square photos like you were saying Ethan sent to you. You just take the image that they got and add it to Instagram, and sometimes it just doesn't look correct, or it doesn't look the greatest in like a grid format, right? I mean, it's really kind of what we see a lot is they use these images that aren't formatted for Instagram, and it's not exactly how they're supposed to be used.
Yeah. You can use layouts. Instagram layouts is really good, because if you've got photos that might not, show up in that square format so well, that's a great way to get all these weird size images into a collage that is actually going into a square format, and you can share that. But sometimes you get lucky too. You could share just a photo, and the way that it comes up, because it's going to zoom in the grid, sometimes it looks good.
Right.
That can happen. But there has definitely been times where you roll the dice and it doesn't look so good. But I know there's other apps that you can get where you can actually put your photos on there to kind of see what it looks like on the grid. I know for sure Later does that, but you do have to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
But Later is a really good scheduling tool. You can schedule, your Instagram post, but a cool feature on there is, once you actually get something scheduled, or, just having it in their library, you can actually, like, the phone pops up, your actual profile, and it'll show what these photos look like on the grid. So if you kind of want to move them around, say you've got a quote and you've got a picture of a pool and you want a picture of the team, you got all these different things, you can kind of strategically kind of move the photos around. And
That's cool.
I know some people might not take it as serious, but I like to think that, like, why are you posting on there if you don't care?
Right.
You must care a little bit.
For sure.
I think it'd be a good thing. I like to look at nice looking profiles.
Yeah. And you want it to fit what the platform is made for. You need to play the game with them, and you want it to work for you. Like you said, if you're on there posting, like, there's a way that Instagram is designed and these other platforms are designed, and the photos are supposed to be used a certain way. And if you got people that are really familiar with these platforms, they're used to seeing images in a certain way. And if you don't give them that and it just throws off everything, they probably aren't going to go in your profile. You're like, oh, that doesn't look right, or that doesn't look professional. And, like you said, people may not take it that serious, but when you have people that are using that platform all the time, like with Houzz, or people are used to seeing professional photos. If you don't have professional photos, it's just not going to match well. Same with Instagram. If you don't feed it what it's supposed to have mostly, then it just looks off to people.
Yeah, definitely. And it takes time, and to each his own. Maybe it works for some people just kind of doing whatever, but it's definitely a little bit more pleasing to the eyes to see it that way. The other thing is, you get all these professional photos back, you can actually do kind of a carousel slideshow where I think you can do up to, like, was it 10 images?
Yeah.
And you can just kind of put a photo on each one of those, and that's pretty cool. So if you've got 10 different angles professionally, that's going to be pretty sweet to be able to actually flip through each one of those. So that's a cool feature.
Yeah.
But Instagram is definitely awesome.
Yeah, we're just sharing. I mean, what worked for us and what we know has worked well. I mean, everybody, like you said, everybody has their own way of doing things, their own way of learning, and it's just kind of what we've done and has worked well for us. So that's why we're sharing it. It's not like, hey, you got to do this. Everybody does their own thing, but it's just what we've been successful at and want to share it with everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a good example is, like, I was just thinking, like, drone images. If you get a good drone shot of a pool, and maybe it's like the layout where it's just kind of like the spray paint on the dirt, and it's kind of a more width vertical, and it's not kind of in that square format. When you share it, it's going to be like extremely zoomed in, and it's like not very clear
Right.
as to what this is a photo of.
Right.
Because I mean, if you're, pool service company, a builder, anything like that, you are still trying to share images for somebody that's not in the industry. You're trying to get somebody to buy a pool. You're trying to get somebody to use your pool services. And in order to do that, you want to like paint kind of a better picture of all those different things.
Exactly.
So Twitter, we don't use that as much for, a lot of professional photos. That's back to using the right thumbnail for your blog and things like that, where it'll pop up and it looks good. Not to say that you can't put great photos on there, but it's not really the hub for that kind of thing. YouTube, that's a perfect place where you definitely want to have great photos at width for a thumbnail image, because even if video is not maybe the greatest, like you can put a really cool looking thumbnail on there, which is going to be a great professional photo and probably going to put some text on there. But for the most part, that's what you're going to want to do. And maybe you want to do a slideshow as well, where you go into some type of video maker, or you could probably do it on YouTube, but maybe you just want to build a video of a slideshow of one pool. So that's a great way to use YouTube. And you've got Yelp. That's another really important place to have, your photos, because that's where you're going to show off your team members, your services, and you're definitely going to want a good headshot on that one as well. And, as the seasons change, make sure that, you're updating the images. If you pay for the slideshow, which we did, when you do a photo shoot, make sure that if you're getting into the fall, winter, anything maybe heater related, or if you're closing a pool or anything like that, move those, towards the front. I think that's key. So Yelp is a great one for photos. Emails, if you're sending out newsletters, different things like that, you definitely want some really good images to go inside of that email. And magazines, I think this is a great one, especially for pool builders. So if, say a magazine, contacts you and they want to, do an article on a pool that you've built or anything like that, it's just really nice having those really high resolutions, because they need to be able to print that. It would be nice having, a folder dedicated to sending directly to a publication. I think that's a really good idea. So, those are, the majority of the platforms. There's a lot of other ones out there, but I think you guys kind of get the idea by all the different things that we discussed. So with all of that being said, what we're trying to let you all know is it's important to have a plan before even contacting the photographer. If you know you're on these 5-10 social media platforms, make sure that you understand, how you're going to use these photos on each one of these platforms, and maybe even note what sizes you're going to need. That way, when you contact the photographer, you can actually have a shot list of what you want. And that way, you know exactly what to do with those photos once they come back to you edited. So contact the photographer, get all the shots, and once you get them back, they go in there. If you have a Dropbox or Google Drive or anything like that, make sure that all those photos go right where they need to go. That way you're saving a ton of time and you're being as efficient as possible, so that, because you might not be able to do it all at once, but with time, or you can actually have somebody else do it, is everything that's in the Houzz folder for that project is going to go into that project on Houzz. These are all going to go on Pinterest. All of these are going to go on Yelp. All of these are going to go here. So I kind of think that you guys all probably get the idea, but we're just trying to get the word out, because I think it's critical to have a good plan for all of this.
Yeah, and we're guilty of not using photos, to the most efficient way too. We spend a bunch of money on photographer and photos, and at one time in our business, we didn't use them all that much, until you figured out how that worked, and we created processes and procedures for everything, and we figured out how to make that work well. And I think, like you said, if you want to hire somebody, like in order to hire a social media person, like you have to have all that stuff organized. Otherwise, it's just going to be a real problem, trying to communicate with that person. That person's going to want images in certain sizes or certain, resolutions, and you need to provide that. And being organized with them is really going to help a lot in the long run.
Yeah, most definitely. And, we look forward to hearing back from you all. Each one of these categories, we definitely will have, a professional to kind of get into each one of these in more detail. But we hope that this helped, and we appreciate your ears.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Pool Chasers. Thanks for checking out this episode. Did you know that each episode has its own page on our website? This is where you can find more information about the guest and episode topic, as well as all the resources that we discuss throughout the show. To get to the webpage, click the link below. Also below, you will find links to the sponsors of the show, as well as links to follow us on our social media channels. On our channels, you will find some of our favorite clips and bonus material. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. We also have a Facebook group for the Pool Chasers community. Here you will find like-minded professionals all looking to make each other better. One last thing. If the episode has brought you value, please check out our Patreon page to support us. And if you could please rate and review the podcast, we would love to hear what your favorite topics are. Thank you for your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.